All right, welcome back to this session together with Philippe and Patrick. They will show us the case of the government of Quebec. And this, I believe, that is one of the nicest and most interesting cases of a government using TYPO3 and scaling up with TYPO3, not only in the North America, but also as a model for the entire world. And we're looking forward to hear more. So the floor is yours. Patrick, Philippe.
So my name is Patrick Gaumond. I've been with the TYPO3 community since 2003. Began using it, that makes it 17 years ago. I first started using it at the business school university, at Université Laval in Quebec. It was a project for migrating a website with about 400 pages, and we end up with more than 1,000 in 6 months because people really enjoyed using it to add content. Once the project went live, I started getting a call from different parts of the university because people were curious about how we managed to make the website happen and having so many pages, all with a consistent look from page to page. You have to remember that in 2003, many websites were done manually with parts of their website done by one team that prefer green color, the other team prefer another color. So having a consistent look was very something new for people. So I did demo, and it spreads over university at that time. In January 2004, I've met Casper in Austria for the T3 board, my first one, and I invited him to do a presentation in Quebec City for the government of Quebec and the university. So that's what that was the seed of the TYPO3 growing up in Quebec and the government of Quebec using TYPO3. So that's my short introduction to the short story of TYPO3 in Quebec. So Quebec, what's that? Because it's a city, but it's also a province. In French, it's even more confusing because it's very easy to have problem with Le Québec, which means really the province, and à Québec, which is the city. So next slide, please. The project we're talking today is really about the province of Quebec and the government of the whole province. Montreal is a bit more known because it's a bigger city. It's about 3 million people for the big area of Montreal. Quebec City is about 500,000 people, but that's where the government is. So it's really the place where I work, where Philippe also live. So our initial problem, how many websites the government of Quebec have? And the answer will depend of your definition of a website, but so it's between 300 and 800 websites, and all having, a visual difference. For just before that, for 20 years, there was a minimal site signature for the website. As you see, those are actual screenshots of many websites available. This visual signature was very basic design with a flag on the left, a little blue menu, a footer, that's it. And the design was made in 2001 before websites were available on a cell phone. So it was really not appropriate to use anymore. So that was one of the part of the project to upgrade the visual impact, but also with so many websites, we had to try to centralize the content for our citizens. So that was another part of the problem we tried to solve. There was lots of content and conflicting content because the same content would be on many different websites, and it was a bit of a mess. It still is a bit. For Québec.ca, we went from a content base on organization to to teams. So it was not the hierarchy of the government that we want to show to the citizens because they don't care. They are looking for the content, and teams were more appropriate for that. So let's go to requirement. The high level were essentially flexibility. You could hit next, Philippe. Thank you. So flexible is, when I have to say, when I have to describe the TYPO3 in just one word, it's always flexible. And it's still true more than 10 years later. TYPO3 has been a successful use since 2005 in Government of Quebec. And many editors knew the product, so less training. The capacity of a normal website has been seen over and over. So we excuse me. We need to be able to support many hundreds editors and teams working on the solution. It also had to be robust, cloud ready. It was not 100% there, but now it is with the help of Philippe and his team. And we need to have very rapid and growing exponential traffic. So that's what we need with our TYPO3 solution. So how we make that happen? We also had the deadline of 6 months to go into production. So to make it happen, we were a very, very small team. I mean, on the technical side, we were only two, me and a developer, to do the front end and installing and configuring TYPO3 in general. We had to keep it simple, starting small with only a few teams. We start with Elf and Jobs. And we need a company to help us because we didn't add at that time any expertise in cloud TYPO3. So that's when our friends at Toumoro enters the stage. So will let now Philippe talk.
All right. So hi, everybody. So I'm Philippe Fekete from the company Toumoro. We are a TYPO3 and AWS specialized web agency. I don't know if many of you have been in the last panel just the hour before, but it was a pleasure for me to talk with you. I made a brief presentation. So we're based in Quebec City. We're a team of 20 people offering design, coding, and cloud services, mainly with TYPO3. We're existing since 2005, and we've been lucky enough to be part of most of the biggest project from the Quebec government with TYPO3. Sorry, just so what about me? I've been participating, as you can see here. This was in the last T3 board in Vancouver just before the pandemic, really like a week before we got into lockdown. I was into 2 Europeans, T3Con, 4 in USA. I've been working with TYPO3 since 2005, 2006. I hosted with Patrick the T3Con 12 in 2012 in North America in Quebec City, which has been a tremendous event. And I just dropped my credentials here. So if you want to reach me by email or by Slack on the TYPO3 workspace, that would be a pleasure to continue these discussions with you. So, so we had some challenges. Our job was to make a platform, an hosting platform for TYPO3. Our job was to give it to Québec.ca so they would be able to manage their website, to develop it, to add webmasters, to add developers, and a lot of different people to that. So our job was really to operate the cloud part, to create a PaaS, and to deliver it to the team, to Patrick's team. So what were the challenges for this project? So basically, when we used to grow TYPO3 for different websites, we used to have these challenges, and in this project, we had to tackle these challenges and get solutions to them, and we'll get through that. So basically, TYPO3 usually is installed on monolithic infrastructure, so a server with different services that you can grow with, adding some new CPUs and new RAMs. So typically we would see a vertical scaling and not a horizontal scaling. So I just want to make sure this talk would be quite technical, but we'll still be doing an overview of what we did. And if you had any questions or want to have any follow-up on this, we'll have 10 minutes at the end. It will be a pleasure with me to talk about this with you later. So back to the challenges. TYPO3 usually is not stateless by default. Stateless meaning the server can go and be destroyed and we'll still have a running solution. So a self-healing solution. Usually we cannot run natively TYPO3 through dozens of containers. With Québec.ca, we've got at the same time got hundreds of containers which are TYPO3. They operate the backend, they operate the front end. We've got plenty of other tools, but typically we've got hundreds of containers running at the same time. And we needed to do it as a PaaS. So our solution, what we tried to do with in the beginning was something we already did with some other program, some other startup that we did. We had the chance to create a startup and really to do it the way we wanted, and we replicated this to TYPO3. So the goal was to create an horizontally scalable, stateless TYPO3 Docker-based orchestrated cluster in the form of a TYPO3 platform as a service on the Canadian AWS region. This sounds almost like a rap, but like this was the whole goal of what we did. So we wanted to be able to horizontally scale, meaning we would add containers in host, but we wouldn't go on growing the host, manually growing the host. We wanted zero downtime, whether it be because we have a pike of frequentation, or because there were a new version of the code that the team of Patrick would be developing. They want to roll it in. So we've got hundreds of deployment, zero downtime with this solution. Orchestrated cluster means that we're not going to the bells and whistle, and this would be made almost automatically with some adaptation. And this is where AWS offers amazing tool. So basically, this is the solution we did. There is Docker, there is TYPO3, and there is AWS. So Docker was, we've always been fan of nice technology. So Docker got into our art really early. I would say maybe in the months where it was in beta around 2014, 2015, I'm not sure. We've been hosting TYPO3 since the beginning of the company, and we decided this would be a really nice try to put TYPO3 into Docker. And we've also been using AWS, shifting from traditional hosting towards cloud hosting, and AWS was the obvious one. We respect Azure. We've been working with Azure, but AWS, as we were feeling more familiar with AWS, coming from the background of the Unix technologies. So what do we have to consider when we take TYPO3 in Docker? So we want to have a Docker cluster main. We've got maybe 10 hosts, 10 VPS, and we've got 8 containers per host, for example. So this was maybe a few years ago, but we've got around 20 hosts at the same time, running an average of 8 containers main. That TYPO3 is spread into 160 different containers. There is a load balancer in front of that orchestrate the request and send them to the containers, which is having like, which is idle, for example. If there's a need for more containers, this is going to scale more. They're going to add hosts to swap containers. There's also notions to take into account while you send some new information about this. So our main Docker image is using the official Apache PHP image with added extensions for TYPO3 and TYPO3 specific configuration. So this is our core. If you remember well, in this project, we didn't add creating the website was not our part. So the Docker image was part of what we gave Patrick's team to start working with this. So at any time, the orchestrator can add containers and can remove containers to mitigate the demand and to be sure to be able to follow the spike. And because of the pandemic, we've got tremendous statistics about how this went well. I mean, in 1 minute, coming from a few thousand, hundreds of thousands of requests to millions of requests, and this has been following with absolutely no problems. And we'll get into statistics later. Each HTTP request has a good chance of being sent to different containers. So basically, you log into the backend, you press the page module, and you're another container. So the data that comes must come from outside of the containers. The sessions must be dealt outside of the containers. You cannot trust local storage, and every component of the TYPO3 infrastructure must be dealt with outside of your containers. So the containers are the basic of your images. So this is the breakdown of a TYPO3 infrastructure. There could be some other things we say about this, but basically this is the steps that we isolated for this project. So we've got the source code, the core, plus the application being what Patrick's team does. This is the image that is being built on every deployment. We're doing GitOps, so every time someone pushes something into the right branch from Git, this triggers a deployment, and this deployment creates a new image, push this image, and rolls it slowly into the containers, doing some canary deployments. We can go over this later. Database, obviously, quite easy. We won't talk about this one because it's really just specifically setting up a conference. Static files, images from your website, for example, things that are included in the templates. We've got temporary files, merge CSS, merge GS, etc. We've got the uploaded files that customers wants to upload. We got the front end and the back end sessions and cache, which is really important point, because if we want to scale horizontally, this had to be modified. We wrote some extensions especially for that. We've got security. This is Quebec's website. This is really important. We've got a web application firewall. We've got flexibility, elasticity, and cache and content distribution network. So we chose AWS as a provider. This was a requirement. The government already chose AWS, and so we just started the project with a blank AWS account. These are the services that we used to create this solution. Basically, some of the services are obvious. Some of the services are more important here. Virtual private cloud, you always have that. Identity access management, this was mainly to allow the government to have the control of their account. So we would be only like a provider of service, but they would be the manager of the account. We've got the VPS from Amazon, the Elastic Compute Cloud. We've got container service. So basically we use Docker, and we already tried orchestrators like Rancher, for example, but ECS from Amazon seemed like a really powerful solution. It's really used in-house at Amazon, so it's really powerful. It's tested, it's secure. We've got a load balancer. We got Elasticache from Amazon, which is basically managed Redis or managed Memcached, which was a key component of what we did here. DNS management was a tool, really interesting to have it inside of AWS because of Route 53, which natively integrates with other tools. CloudWatch for monitoring, but this one is really important because basically we do scaling based off the data that we got into CloudWatch. Lambda is serverless computing. We use it for particular functions, for example, clearing security groups in the CloudFront and stuff like that. Database services, CloudFront here, which is amazing. You will see why this is a big part of the success, to be able to use TYPO3 cache in collaboration with CloudFront. We also have this web application firewall, which is a tool because as you know, like this website is really popular, so it keeps getting attacked by hackers or wannabe hackers. They run scripts and stuff, so we're able to really actively secure the website with this. And these tools are what's necessary to create this zero downtime deployment, a pipeline, a commit, like which is a Git build, which builds image, and deploy, which rolls them into TYPO3. So here we got a schema, which is quite interesting, but I'm not sure if this speaks a lot for you. Basically, we've got all these tools here. We've got the internet going through the DNS provider, the web application firewall, the CDN. We've got static objects here in the S3. We've got rules that we are provided by Fortinet, for example, to have some OS protection, top 10 OS protection. We've got this VPC, which isolate resources, but the key of this solution is here. So we've got a container service, which is TYPO3 made of a number of instances. Like I say, we can have up to 20 instances running, 8 containers each. So that's quite a lot. This is particular. This is because we have Solar. Solar is almost in all the websites we do. This was a requirement for this website. There's an image for Solar here. I've got a load balancer, Lambda functions, notification functions, external volumes, database cluster, Elasticache, which is a cluster for Redis, and many other things. So we'll go without details into these services, but we'll still be able to go through the main ones. So just a moment. Okay, good. So, as I said, TYPO3 is not natively ready for this type of infrastructure. We had to create some modification. These modifications mainly were to adapt TYPO3 to Docker to help with the tools, help with what was needed to make sure that every single part of this infrastructure were really ready to make sure, as Patrick said, this was a go no go. Basically, we had 6 months to do something, and they were going live with this after. Okay, all right. So Amazon ECS. Amazon ECS is an orchestration service provided by Amazon. Basically, it's a simple tool to manage the life cycle of your containers. With the life cycle, we've got creating containers, hosting containers, scaling containers, and replacing containers if there's a new version of the website or the image. It is fully managed by AWS. This was a really important thing for us because we wanted to leverage all the tools that were fully managed by AWS to make sure that we had a really powerful things, and that IT requirements were getting dealt with by Amazon as much as possible. It natively integrates with other services, namely ELB, Elastic Load Balancer, and CloudWatch, which is really important at this point. The database, I'm just going to talk about this one because we didn't have nothing to do with this, but using such a powerful database engine as Amazon Aurora, this has been a tremendous point for the website because we want to scale with the database, and this is a pre-made, already scalable system. Basically, it's a MySQL and Postgre compatible relational database built for the cloud. It's based on MySQL. So it's built for the cloud. It's been built from the ground up. So from Amazon's comparison, it's up to 5 times faster than the usual standard MySQL databases. Provides the security, availability, reliability of a commercial database at 1/10 of the cost. And it is fully managed by Amazon Relational Database Services. What are the advantages for TYPO3? Mainly the advantages is that we don't have to think about these points. It eliminates time-consuming administration tasks like hardware provisioning, database setup, patching, backups. This is a black box, a database, powerful database, high-performant, available with read-write replicas, and this is a black box. We just use it. We connect to it from the TYPO3's point of view, and we just get the data. And every container. The hundreds of containers that need some data at some point just creates a connection to this database, and it brings this tool data. So this was a key component, but all taken care about by Amazon. Sorry, just one of the interesting areas, the point-in-time recovery. So we can basically go in the last 30 days to a point in time in seconds and recover the data from that point in time. So if you take into consideration, for example, a government agency, you need to have this kind of backup situation. You need to be able to recover data if something is lost, or if there's been anything that for any reason we need to go back. Well, we get this type of powerful feature. There was only one thing that we needed to adapt, was we needed to balance the TYPO3 queries to the master or the slaves based on the query type. And we had to use the DNS report provided by Amazon Aurora to get the number of available slaves and be able to balance the queries to these master and these slaves based if they were write or read queries. So we just expressed TYPO3 CMS core database connection file. So this is the link TM master slave. So all these extensions have been released just recently. They're on GitHub, and they're also on the TER from TYPO3. Another part, really important part of TYPO3 is the static files. Like, there's many types of static file we'll go through here. This is quite from a high level, but you know, the tool that we use for that is Amazon S3. This was the first tool that Amazon did. This was a simple storage system. So it's object storage built to store and retrieve any amount of data from anywhere. So our thoughts here were that we would put everything in S3 as possible. So we're talking about static files. We're talking about temporary files. We're talking about everything which is under the file admin in TYPO3. This has already been done, but this is a key element of using a totally leveraged system like we did. So it's everything that there was, the container must be able to die at any moment, to be destroyed at any moment. So everything that needs, every file that needs to be outside of that needs to be on S3. So there's many advantages. It's industry leading scalability. It's really cheap. Backup and versioning are included in the system. For example, anything in the file admin can be backed up, can have this type of durability, is completely external from TYPO3. So that has been really an excellent way of giving the responsibility of the files to another system. So the old problem with the static files was that the file admin cannot be stored inside of the container because they can be deleted anytime. So we use the house driver Amazon S3 extension with a few X classes to save our files to a S3 bucket. So that's a driver for the file system in TYPO3, and we're simply putting it with the backup. So this is for the static files. This is quite simple at this moment. Which is less simple is the temporary files. So temporary files, we are talking about everything which is in TYPO3 temp. So we can think of hundreds of containers having their own version of temporary files. This is not possible. This is too much computing. And if you go into one of the containers, for example, one of the requests reach one container and the following requests reach another containers, this is going to be a mess because each container is going to refer to different temporary files. So we needed to have these completely external from TYPO3 so that every container has the same temporary files and link to the good temporary file depending on the build image. So the problem that we have here was that the temporary asset files, the merge, CSS, GS, should be in a content delivery network. Also, they should be in the content delivery network and outside of your instances. This is where we built this extension, TM-S3 assets. Basically, this extension rewrites TYPO3 temp assets file to an Amazon S3 bucket URL. Just a moment. TYPO3 uploads. The thing was only some extension didn't support the fall, so this created problems. So they wouldn't go through the driver sending these files to the S3. So basically, we just use extension that support the fall, or we patched some. There's also this tool from AWS, and the reason, if you remember, we wanted to have this project in the Canada Central region, and the way AWS rows feature, they start with the North Virginia region and then move it to other regions. And there was a requirement that the website was only in the Canadian region, and EFS was not available at that time. Right now it's available. So this could be also a different approach. EFS is quite particular. It can be costly if you don't expect things and IOs and stuff like that. So, but this is a new thing, because we did this 3 years ago, and right now we already did the setup for many other customers. And I would say we've got really improved the approach to all of this. So sessions and cache, this was really excessively important, because both are really important to TYPO3. We're talking about backend sessions, we're talking about front-end sessions. Amazon Elasticache is a really powerful tool here. So it works as an in-memory data store and cache. It is fully managed. It can scale out, scale in, scale up to meet fluctuating application demands. With the sessions, the problem was the sessions needed to be shared across all containers. For example, if you're going to a backend, like you type /typo3, and you've got access to this container, which gives you the application. If you refresh the page and you go to another container, you want to still be logged in. And this is where we just set it up at Amazon Elasticache using Redis for session storage. For the cache should be shared across containers of the same version. Meaning, when we build a new version, we add some features to the tool. Patrick's team adds some features to the tool. This would create a new build image. This image has a key. And what we did is we prefixed all the caches from TYPO3 with the key from the build, so that every time you go and reach one container, it would refer to the good version of the cache for this container being prefixed by the number of the build. So that's sounds simple, but this is really important, because basically you would have inconsistency. The backend would not work. For example, you do something and then the cache writes back, you get backend errors, you get all these kind of things. So we needed to isolate the cache between each container versions. And this is the extension TM container cache. New cache keys evict older keys over time. So for example, when we're deploying, we might have a 20 minutes gap from start to end, and the instances will be rolled back. So basically you can sometimes reach a container which has this version of the cache, and then the next request, you go to another container with a more recent version of the cache. So this was a key to the success TM container cache. That's how we called it. CDN, right now, it's one of the most tremendous tools, because basically we put the CDN in front of TYPO3. We want TYPO3 to create as static features and pages as possible, and we reach a really tremendous amount of that. CloudFront, the advantages for TYPO3 is it securely delivers data, video application APIs to customers, got the global reach, low latency, high transfer speed. There's thousands of locations all around the world. So basically it just automatically provides the best host for each request, whether you are in Africa, whether you're in Oceania, whether you were here in Quebec, using the Canadian region, which is in Montreal. It natively integrates with AWS web application firewall, which is really extremely interesting, because this way we would be able to mitigate attacks directly from the CDN. And it caches the pages, the documents, the static assets like a browser would do, according to HTTP headers sent by TYPO3. So we wanted to have the cache cleared and validated as less as possible, but nonetheless, at every time a webmaster would create a new version of the page. So what we did is wrote this extension, TM CloudFront, which invalidates the Amazon CloudFront cache based on the speaking URL path. So basically, when someone clears the cache of a page in TYPO3, or where any situation clears the page, these clear comments are sent also to CloudFront, which then moves them and clear the path. And this is important because CloudFront builds you on invalidation. So you don't want to invalidate whole website at the same time. You want to invalidate only the page which is worked on. That's the kind of thing that we can achieve with CloudFront. Basically, you've got the misses here, which is 3.43%. If you miss the errors, because my errors are coming from misconfiguration and both, we've got 88% average between these 11 days. 88% of the hits on the website on Québec.ca that don't reach the servers. Basically, they just hit CloudFront. So that means that, let's say 90% of the requests don't ever reach your server, don't even use calculation capacities, don't even reach the cluster. And that's really amazing, because this is the cheapest way to deliver content, because it's already generated. You don't have computing, you don't have database, you don't have bandwidth. You've got a static file, which is in cache within the CDN, and which is given to the customer. So basically, we've got really low latency while getting some pages, and we've got delivery time which are well beyond 1 second. It's almost always instantaneous, and this is one of the things that CloudFront allows. Just a few words before we move to the statistics of this and the 3 years later. Our goal was to have a zero downtime deployment pipeline. So basically, this is based on GitHub. So we've got this master branch, we've got this development branch, and we create the setup we want. And we just attach the pipeline to the setup we want. So basically, let's say we commit into master, we push something into master, and it's coming into code commit. There are some triggers. The triggers say when something new is pushed to master, you trigger a build. So Code Pipeline is the management tool from AWS that does that. Basically, takes the code, create a build on the images with the new code. We've got the new image from Docker. This image is pushed to the container registry and is then slowly rolled into the later tool, which is the container service, our cluster. So basically, how it does in the under the hood is that when a deployment is initiated, ECS will launch new container. These containers will have the new version of the application, and we still have running containers. Maybe someone is already working on running containers. So ACS will slowly switch the containers being based on their usage. There will be some new customers will channel them to the new containers. And we'll just let the people close with the other containers, and it all starts fading out like this. The load balancer starts sending traffic to new containers. It stops sending traffic to all containers. ECS wait for 5 minutes before terminating all containers, and then we're back in a point where all our images were deployed. So 3 years later,
Yep. So we went live in our 6-month period we had, and just 6 months after I arrived, me and the developer, we're now at about 200 editors, 50 backends group, 6,000 pages, 2 languages, and more than 25,000 items in the website. We add over the years 2 minor hiccups, 2 minor problem. It's less than 10 minutes worth, so it's not very talking. And that was before any sign of COVID-19. Next. And 2.5 years later, after going live, our page view is quite impressive, I think, with 24 million on the first year when you calculate from June to May. Second year is 92 million page view. And so far, we're about almost at the same as the year 2, because we add our COVID-19 situation, and the Quebec.ca website became the central hub for information about COVID for the whole province. So as you remind, we're about 8 million people, 8 million citizens. So we had a lot of traffic during since March. Our biggest day was March 23, with in a single day 4.5 million page view, and I can tell you that it was not visible on the infrastructure, because with all the stuff that Philippe just talked to you about, it was pretty solid and no problem at all, even if the traffic was that big that day. So the year so far, as you see before March, that's a graphic from Google Analytics. So before March, it looks non-existent, but it was, a slow day was about 200,000 page view. But since March, it didn't stop. And every time our Prime Minister do a press conference, we will see spikes in the visits and stuff like that. And we clearly see March 23 there. And on the second graphic, so I was just comparing November 2019 and last November, and you see that it's quite different traffic we got, and it's all the same infrastructure, all the same. I think we upgrade a bit our Aurora server and add some containers to cope with the traffic, but technically I would say it's the same thing that we start with almost 3 years ago. It's all the same principle and infrastructure behind the solution. Last week we had something very special. There's something that called Québec en alerte, which is the emergency system that rings on all the phones, all the cell phones, on the television, and it had a link on Québec.ca. So we had lots of traffic. In fact, in 30 seconds, we had about 100,000 connections, in only 30 seconds. It was instantaneous. And that's why you see the crazy spike there. We got a few error 500 at that time because we forget something. We use it was a redirection, and redirection to slash coronavirus was using the database. So it was not the redirection itself was not in CloudFront. So it's why we had a few errors on that one. And worst of all, there was also some kind of counter with the extension doing the redirection. So every visit was, writing to the database. But since that happened last Wednesday, and it was corrected in few days, and we're ready to have another Québec en alerte. So what's next? We're starting migrating to version 10 of TYPO3. Our biggest challenge will be probably to have a clean deprecation log, because we don't want to wait 2 years before doing a big upgrade. And we want to continue adding more sites, more content from sites, new functionalities. We got lots of queries, lots of inquiries to get more maps and stuff like that. We already have a colored map with, a level of emergency. It's all on the website. We want to grow as a team because right now we're 4 technical people, included me, and we want to have even more people to give more functionality. And we still work with the project as, being a citizen project. It's not an IT sandbox. It's really citizen first that we're aiming for.
All right, and I will just show what we're doing next with this solution. We already improved it into a few occurrences that we did for other customers. We would like to open collaboration on improving this solution. This is why we released all the extensions on our GitHub. We already have new versions coming for TYPO3 version 9, version 10. We would like to speak with people, would like to see how can we optimize this solution, how can we reach a 100% content delivery network hit rate, how could we help with having some kind of headless TYPO3 or splitting features into microservices. Would it be forms, for example, or things like that? If anybody is interested into help setting up something like this, we've got a broad experience with AWS, a broad experience with TYPO3, and we'd also be interested into sharing much more details about this project. We've been, I think, into a quick overview right now, but if anyone's want to know the bells and whistles and things and how did we manage the CloudFront distribution, for example, or the cache switch up with AWS, for example, please let us know. So we wanted also to keep some time for the questions. So here we are. Is anybody having questions right now? Or so I got a few questions or a few commentaries. Yes, people seeing the same type of problems with different versions of code using the same cache, for example. So yeah. We've got a tricky question from Olivier. Patrick, how high is your AWS bill?
I think before COVID, and I really don't know the numbers after that, but I think for 2019, it was around about $2,000 a month, more or less in that area. And that's for the whole AWS account. So it means, our 6 or 8 developer machine, all the CloudFront stuff from the WAF, the firewall, and so it was quite cheap. If you ask me, it's not my own money, but yeah. And also, I just want to add that we are really happy with the solution, and it's our MySQL server right now is it's under 5% because our best friend is CloudFront, and as Philippe said, we got below 20% of the traffic that goes up to the to TYPO3. So it's very great. And as Philippe said, I'll be also available to talk to anyone who wants to talk about the project and have question about it.
Yeah,
Goshen, it was Canadian dollars, so it's even cheaper than you think.
Yeah, and I can add something because, as I said, we did it a few times again for different customers, and we are paying for their hosting. So I know exactly how it costs because I take the risk of that cost. And Québec.ca has some special requirements. We've got a lot of different environment. If we talk about one environment, let's say the production environment, the bill could be anywhere around $250 to $500 per month, including quite a good bandwidth, including quite a lot of things. And this is because CloudFront is so cheap that it takes, like Patrick said, the database is idle. It's waiting for challenges, and it's not having none because CloudFront is taking everything from it. And so this is the reason why it's quite, it's not expensive. So I would say maybe minimum $250 to $500. You would have one environment with this setup. All right, so I guess we'll leave the stage or the session. I'm not sure what happened, but this event is tremendous. We're really happy to be part of it. It's been a pleasure presenting to you guys today. Have a great holidays. Let's wish everybody as well, and we will catch up later in any events. And don't hesitate to call us or to contact us if you got any other question. It will be a pleasure to talk over it over a virtual beer. So have a good day, everybody. Bye.